Pull! Oh, I didn't see you there. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Babyface P. Today we're going to be showing off a new project we caught coming up. This is a Browning Auto 5 from Japan. I'm going to show you how awesome it is. You ready? So, this is a Federal birdshot. Check this thing out. Ready? Oh, shit, that doesn't work. Let me bring you in and show you what we got going on here. Alright, so let's bring this on in here. Oh, and move all my lighting equipment around. And let's see if we can figure out what's wrong with this thing. So, for any guys out there that aren't sure where to start, I'm going to say firing pin. We're going to look and see, but my guess is a broken firing pin. So let's take that back, and I'm guessing there's no firing. Well, I'm guessing there is no firing pin. Hold on, let me bring this in close. So, guys. So that is what I'm seeing. That's a pretty dark hole right there. I'm going to go with either a broken firing pin or no firing pin. One of the two. And we'll take this apart and see if we can figure out what's wrong with this thing. So, with the Browning Auto 5, pull down, take the recoil off. Take the spring off, right? Oh, man. Take this apart. Come on, here we go. Cap comes off, stock comes off, barrel comes off, and barrel looks good. It's dirty, but it looks pretty good actually. Let me sit this up this way so it doesn't fall off the bench. All right, that leaves us with the mechanism. The recoil mechanism looks fine. Spring's looking pretty good. There's the back part of it, so if you got to change the loading around, that looks pretty good. Everything looks good so far, other than it won't fire. So let's go ahead. Let's take it down further and see what we can figure out here. Remember, if you're wanting to take this down, make sure you're in frame. Yeah, if you want to take one of these down, remember they use very, very fine screwdriver bits. I have this gun kit from Chapman. It was about, I got it used on eBay, but these run about 45 or 50 bucks. They are well worth the money. I have a small bit here. I know it doesn't take up the whole thing, the whole slot, but we're gonna work with it. If you want, I will link this down below because I have been using this one for probably 3 or 4 years and I swear by it. I'll also link the correct bits because Brownells actually sells like a 4-bit set that are perfectly made for this. But this is going to get us by in a pinch. So let's go ahead and sit it up on its end. Sit it like that. Hopefully you guys can see. We're going to take the stock off first. So John Moses Browning, in his infinite wisdom, which John Moses Browning was an absolute genius. Back then, what they did is they did locking screws. So you can see there, the main screw is here, and then there's a cutout for your locking screw. So the locking screw actually held the main screw head down. So take these screws out. This will take the stock off. And most of the time, the locking screw isn't super tight. I'm sorry, the main screw isn't crazy tight. It's just a locking screw that's tight. So this is actually working pretty well. Pull this out. That's just tight. Here we go. Screw comes out, and loose butt stock. That's probably because there's a big crack running down it. But you know what? It's all there at least. Next up, we're going to let the bolt slide home. Don't let it slam home. Hold it back. Let it rack forward. And we are going to take the trigger guard out first, because I feel like it at the moment. So trigger guard screws are here. You start with your locking screw. This one's a little bit more snug. Oh, but not that bad. Put all these screws right here so I don't lose them. All of the locking screws, interestingly enough, all of these locking screws are the same size. So you can put them wherever you need to. They'll all fit in any of the locking hole spots. You don't have to get the exact one back. And I'm using this to pry on the metal. Yes, that's not the best way to do it, but this is under spring tension, so hold on to that. But we're probably going to end up refinishing this. We're going to probably do a rust blue on this whole thing, so it's not a huge deal. Pull this back screw out. Yeah, it's loose. These back, the big screws are actually big screws that go all the way through. Take our trigger guard assembly out. That all looks pretty good. Everything looks fine there, other than the spring falling out, which we will get back in there. Take the ejector components. Actually, we got to take this out first. So this, be careful, this will shoot across the room. Grab a size punch. Maybe a Glock punch? Yeah, Glock punch works. Pull that pin, so you take a little bit of pressure off the back here, drop that pin out, and then be careful because this will shoot across the room. Well, there's one broken thing so far. This is supposed to fill in about that much gap, and you can see it's been snapped off. It looks like an older piece of nylon or something, so we'll have to get one of those. We'll take our spring out. That all looks pretty good. Next up, we will take out the mechanism here. So we got to take the two screws out on either side. Oh. Take this one out. That falls free. Flip it over, and yes, it's all scratched up. That's why I'm not too worried about scratching the finish on this thing. When we do the final reassembly, after we've refinished all the screws and everything, we'll be very careful not to scratch anything. But for now, we're just getting it apart. So that will release that. Next thing is we need to get the pin. There's a pin that rides through this hole, and it holds that in place, the spring part here in place. I don't know what it's called, so don't ask, because I can't tell you offhand. It's pretty tight, I think, but we will tap it out. Let me find a hammer that's non-marring. Give me a sec. Alright, that's giving way for me. Take some spring wrenches off. There we go. Pin comes through. And let me grab some pliers to pull the pin the rest of the way out. Pliers on there. I'm going to push down. So this is, hopefully you guys can see this here. I'm trying to get this so you can see. This here is spring loaded. So I'm going to push down on it while I pull that pin out so it doesn't go flying. Spring comes right out, or the pin comes right out. And it's a little more. Should be fine. We'll take that. And now, finally, this your cord. That. Come on. Out it goes. Finally. Set the receiver aside. Finally. It takes that much work to get down to the bolt. So, what do you guys think? Do we have a firing pin or not? Bad news is, well, good news is we predicted correctly. There's no firing pin up in there. Firing pin would sit right across here. And it looks like there's a pin missing for the firing pin retaining pin. So, I'm going to try out this new feature from Numrich, from Gun Parts Corp. I'm going to use their Back to the Future shipping method. It's like a predictive model of what they think you're going to order, and they send it to you before you even order it. It's pretty cool. So, wait, hold on, that's the doorbell. Let me go check. Huh. Look at that. Numrich comes through again. They, I guess their Back to the Future shipping works really well. They predicted that this is what I was going to need, and they sent it on over. So there's our retaining pin. Oh, look at that. They sent us they knew that I was going to need this part for the back. Oh, and a firing pin. So there we go. They also knew that we're going to need some parts for the the Model 38, which is really cool. They sent that as well. Thanks, New Merch, for your super fast shipping. So, what do we do next? Well, glad you asked that. We are going to install our firing pin and our retaining pin. We're going to put it back together, and we're going to shoot the damn thing and see if it will work. I know what you're yelling. It's crap. Stop. I know. We're not going to put a bunch of heavy loads through it. We're going to try it, make sure it functions, and then we're going to go ahead and refinish the whole thing. So let's get this out. Nice new firing pin. And boom, a retaining pin. Man, New Merch coming through. Clutch as ever. So let's see. Now, I've never rebuilt one of these. I know this goes in. This is going to be super painful for everybody out there. You're going to be screaming at me because most of you guys are probably like, I don't know how this goes together. Why are you doing it the wrong way? Yeah, I don't know how it goes together. I know this goes in like that maybe, and rolls back. And then the firing pin has to go through this somehow. I think it must go like that. Firing pin sits in that channel, and then the retaining pin, I'm guessing, is going to go one way or the other. Goes this way. Ooh, that's tight. Nope, not going to go in that way. I think it goes in like that, and it's knurled to make it. Maybe not. And I'm back. I put it in the 12-ton press and pressed it in flush, which is what everything I see online, it looks like this is the way to do it. It gets pressed in flush, and it is a fairly snug fit, so this isn't something you're going to take apart often. But you know what? If that's all that was broken on this gun, I think for 260 bucks, we're doing pretty well. So let's reassemble this. And you're going to have to bear with me as I figure out how to do this, because it's not easy. These guns are really difficult to take apart and put back together. Let's see if we can figure this thing out. I know that goes in the front. This needs to get lifted up. And I'm sorry guys, this is not a disassembly or reassembly video. This is just a project video, so I'm not going to show you how to do this. I am not an expert on this gun. I'm not an expert on any gun. So yeah, I'm not an expert on any gun. I'm just some dude on the internet. Okay, so we got to put this springy dingy back in. And that sits into the springy dingy hole. I think it's just like that. Yeah, it goes like this. This has to get set down in there. Yeah, and you guys aren't going to see much. Actually, you know what? Let me bring you over the top so we can try putting this back together. Alright, gents. Remember, this is not a disassembly or reassembly video. I'm not doing that for you guys. I'm strictly for entertainment because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, so you guys will be entertained watching me try to fumble around like a retard putting this back together. That goes back further so the pinhole lines up. And then we gotta press down on this bitch. Like that. And remember, I know you guys are out there yelling, oh no, the poor Browning. It's fine. It's fine, it's gonna get refinished. So I'm not taking, perfect care of it, but it's okay. Don't fret. Pin needs to get set flat. There we go. Next up, oh god, this thing. Trying to get this piece of shit in there always fucks me up. I fucking hate trying to get this thing in. Okay. And okay, it goes like that. So that silver thing goes forward. That's the loading lever, and this is a lifting gate thing. It goes in like this, and we take our little nubby screws on either side through the whole bajigga, the whole mechanism. So that goes in here. one screw in, and this thing does not want to sit right. There we go. That's a little better. Make sure they both line up on this side. Put that. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Goes through. Ah! Whew! Sweat like a pig out here. It's supposed to be winter. It's December. Why is it so damn hot out here? That tightens down. We'll put our locking screws in. Somebody out there's going to be yelling like, no, you're doing it wrong! And I'm probably going to figure out that I'm doing it wrong, but I'm not going to figure that out until like 5 minutes from now, and then I'm going to have to backtrack. And I know that's the case, but remember, this is how you learn. You learn by breaking a bunch of shit and then trying to figure out how to put this shit back together. You're not going to get it right the first time every time. You're never going to get it right the first time. Unless you're like crazy. Unless you are John Moses Browning. These things are a pain in the ass to try to fit in there. And you gotta make sure there's a little divot in the screw. It's actually like a cutout section of the screw. Gotta make sure that that cutout is lined up so the locking screw can fit into it. And I'm a little bit off, but it fit its way in. So we're good. Make sure this is not gonna come out. Yep, we're good. Okay. That looks good. Now we'll put our locking screw in on this side so you can see what I'm talking about. The hopefully you guys can see the cutout is right there. So we need to actually take this screw, turn it so it lines up with the locking screw. Yeah, good enough. Put our locking screw in. And yeah, I've already messed with this locking screw if you can't tell. This locking screw is nice and shiny. It was really gouged and messed up, so I already took it to a little sandpaper to kind of prep. I was doing a little practice with it, so they're all going to get refinished anyways. It's not a big deal. Next up, after we get that in, we need to put our new guide in, spring guide. So we're going to get rid of this turd, this thing, put our new one in the back of the spring, and then the metal piece goes forward. That piece goes forward into the gun, and it lines up with the little tail on the back of the, right there. You see that? Hopefully you see that. If you don't, I'm sorry. We're going to push this in, and there's a hole on the back. Let me sit this where it can actually sit down flat. This hole needs to go to that hole, and then this little pin rides through and holds it all together. So this is the hardest part of the whole thing. No, I'm kidding. This whole gun is difficult. This gun is not the simplest design ever. It is, however, a beautiful gun. All right, there's that. Now, what do we have left? We need to put the trigger guard back in, and the spring, I believe, goes like this. So the spring came out. I believe the spring goes in like that. And you gotta do a little bit of funky trickery with this, if I remember. Oh no, I'm sorry, it doesn't go like that. It goes around the pin. So it's held in by the pin. I was wondering why it was so loosey-goosey. It goes into that pin. So the trickery here is, obviously, you run it over like this, you see the holes are here and here, and on this, the holes are here and here. But you can't just put it straight in. Certain things have to line up within this gun. So you got to start it kind of forward. See if I can show this off. This spring leg here has to go up into this section here, so it gives this spring tension. And you're never gonna get it by trying to put these holes, lining these holes up first go. So what you're gonna do is start forward like that. That will get your spring lined up. Then we bring it back, and it should be under spring tension. You're gonna feel it. Like that, it should be sprung. We're going to get our small screw, which goes through first. Make sure it's in correctly. Shaky Hands P is going to come to the rescue and screw this in. And I'll get the lock screws afterwards. I want to make sure this is lined up first. That goes in. Then your back will ride up, if I did this correctly. Oh, the other thing, when you go to put your back together, it won't seat correctly Unless you, so how do you do this? This has to, you have to bring the receiver, man, it's getting late and I'm not talking straight. You need to bring the action backwards a little bit, and you'll see it'll sit down in it. So if you look back on the video, you'll see that the that rear tang with the tail on it, it's in half. There's a hole down the middle, a thing that runs down the middle of it, and it's just two long legs. This has to sit inside of that. So you bring your action back a little bit, and that will sit down in it and hold correctly. And that's got the threads, so we turn it over this way. We grab the correct screw, and on this one, these are very similar in size. The way I remember this on this gun is the screw that goes back here only has one cutout. The screw that goes in the stock has 3 cutouts. So that's just for this gun. I don't know how the rest of these Brownings were made, but that's how this particular one works. I figured that one out earlier. Otherwise, I probably would have forgotten what screw goes where. Okay, that goes in. And remember, line up your little divot. Now we can go for our 3 locking screws. Hold. This is so damn difficult trying to get that little screw started. I do it by, it's best if you do it by hand. Start it by finger, and then finish it out the rest of the way. Like that. There we go, and that'll lock that screw in. Leave one more over here. Oh gosh. Since this was not lined up, I'm gonna put this in, turn this back. Now it's lined up correctly. Get this screw on here. There we go, and it's not, looks like this isn't lined up perfectly. You just adjust it until your locking screw goes in like that, or like so. And we tighten it down. Okay, and I just slipped on the screw. Don't do that. Do not do what I just did. Luckily, this is gonna get refinished, but if you're working on your Browning, do not let this screwdriver slip out, because then you mar this up, so be careful. Last up, we are going to, well, one, you can function check it now. Locks back, goes forward, everything seems to work. So next up, we're going to put our stock back on, and like I said, stock is going to need some repair. There's a nice crack running down it, side to side. But other than that, it's really not a bad looking stock. It's in pretty good shape. The checkering will need to be redone. We'll redo that. And the crack is we've already repaired one crack. You guys will see that video if you haven't. Well, no, that's already live. So go check out the crack repair that I did on the Marlin Model 38. I'll link it up one of the corners. But it shouldn't be that big of a deal, so we'll do that. So this goes in like that. Slam it home. Put your screw through. We're going to tighten this down first. Off camera, sorry. And you can see how loose the buttstock is on this gun. Now we'll be careful with it when we go to test fire it before we get it running, because it could split further if we're not careful. It's gonna stop right there in the middle. There we go. Our locking screw. Don't lose the locking screw off the workbench. Oh, and don't loosen that screw up. That is a spring for, shit, what's that go for? It's a spring. Don't loosen that unless you want to replace that spring, or you want to rejigger that spring later on. It has nothing to do with taking down the gun like this, so leave that screw alone. Obviously you know that, just leave it alone for now. All right, stock's back on. Let me back you guys out. Give me a sec. All right, stock's on. Let's move to the front end. We're gonna be doing light load, so I believe that means that the spacer goes on first, and it just sits loosely in the back. Spring goes on next. And we put, I'm gonna put it like this for now with the bevel going forward. I don't know how that's gonna affect it, but I think that might actually make it a little bit tighter. Let's go like this first. So the bevel will be going towards the back first, because I believe that's for the lightest setup. Fortunately, the setup guide is no longer in here, so I'm gonna have to try to print one and glue it back in. We'll do that later. Next up, lock the action back. Barrel goes on. That. Sorry if you're not seeing all this. Compress the barrel. Like that. Action goes better. That goes on. Your screw goes on. Okay, let it forward. Check to see if it'll close. All right. Safety and everything's working still. So there you go. Let me take you back out and we'll show you, I'll let you talk to you a bit. Whew. All right. We're out. We have the Browning. We installed that firing pin. Let's see if it works. Shell goes in, holds. Chambers. Now for the real test. Will it work? And will the wood just completely fall apart? Let's find out. There we go. Got locked back. And it ejected. So, next, put one in the chamber. Load one in the tube. Let's see if we can get it to cycle 2 now. Look at that. That thing is a thing of beauty. So, we got it working. Let's do 2 more. Such a soft shooting gun. Like, incredibly soft shooting 12 gauge. Man, that is a soft shooting 12 gauge. All right. Looks pretty good. Let's get in and wrap this up. As the ghost hand loads from back here from off camera, it's my 3rd hand. Don't worry about it. So it works great. So it didn't cycle the last round, so I'm gonna have to screw with it a little bit. From what I hear, these things are always a little finicky, trying to get them to run really light loads. So, but it ran the first couple and it ran them great. I also haven't lubed it yet, and I'm pretty sure that this thing probably needs a good lubing before it should run nicely. But man, talk about a soft shooting 12 gauge. Other thing, so price-wise, we picked this gun up for 265 bucks. All shipping and everything included, tax and everything on top of that, comes out to about $300. That was with the shipping and everything. That puts us at a $300 shotgun. Not too bad, doesn't work. 35 bucks for a firing pin, around $10 for the firing pin retaining pin. So we're sitting about, let's say $350. All in all, to get this home and ready to shoot, we're talking 350 bucks. I think for this one, we did a really good job. So next up, I need to hear from you guys. On this gun, the wood is cracked in the front, in the forend. Actually, I believe it's cracked to the back of the forend, and the stock is split right down the ridge on the internals. So we need to decide, do we fix that? Which is not too bad, that's pretty simple. The other thing is we have an import mark here and a import mark with the serial number here on the side. So, do we take this all the way down and rust blue it, bring it back up and remove the import marks? Do we file out the import marks and do kind of a touch-up cold blue? You guys let me know what you think we should do. I'll try to go with your opinions. If we do a rust blue, remember it's not going to be a high polish, it'll be a brushed finish. But hey, it'll still look great. So let me know in the comments, do we refinish the wood? And do we do a nice rust blue on this whole thing, or do we just kind of touch it up? Let me know what you think. But all in all, $350 shotgun. Go online if you want to learn this sort of stuff. Go to Gunbroker or go wherever and do a search for Gunsmith specials. That's sort of what this was. Great deal, 350 bucks. There you go. Let me know what you think we should do to refinish this thing. I'll catch you guys on the next one.